Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and today we're going to create a heartfelt handmade Valentine. And we're going to use a clear plastic. Here is the Valentine, and what I think makes it sort of unique is I've written love you on the paper, and when I turn this, you can see that it's written on the paper, and I've used this clear layer that's just going to sit right over the top in order to create what looks like sort of a double pattern. The pattern on top and the message underneath. And it's really a fun technique, and all you need is plastic, and there are so many places that you can get it. I thought I'd show you at least 3 options that I've used over the past several years. One possibility is you can take just a clear page protector, and you can see I've cut tags and rectangles out of this shape. I don't know how easy it is to see them because they're clear, but I've just kind of set them here on the blue paper. I've also used the packaging for dies. This plastic that the Sizzix dies come in is actually the plastic that we're going to use for the one that we're going to make today. Here's the square that I cut out of a die. It wasn't actually this package, it was a longer alphabet die. And here you can see this is the plastic that I used, and then I just cut it on the paper trimmer into this. It's a 2 3/4 inch square, although the size square is going to be based on whatever size you want. Now, another option, if you're going to make lots of things using clears, you can buy a box of these transparencies. So this is easy to cut and perfectly clear and work great as well. And you can get them at any, I got these at Staples, but any office supply is going to carry those. So once you have your clear plastic, let's create the background for the card first. So the dimensions for mine opened up, you can see that mine is, it's 6 1/4 by 9, and you're going to fold it in half. Now, in order for me to have an envelope, you want to make sure, I started actually with my envelope, and that dictated the size of the card that I had, but my envelope is 4 3/4 by 6 1/2, and that way I have a 1/4 inch clearance, if you want to see when I set this in, all the way around, or maybe it actually shows better if I set it on the outside. So you can see, this is how I started. So once you have this, now let's look at decorating this square. And what you want to do is, I'm going to take and put a piece of paper behind here. You can use your printer and pick any pattern you want. I just drew these swirls, but you can pick any pattern and you can print it on the printer, and then because it's clear, you're going to be able to see right through it in order to create that pattern. I'm also going to create an edge around the sides. Because I'm working with the clear, it's going to be smartest for me to have some paper underneath, and I'm going to have to be sure that I use a permanent marker or it's going to just bead up. I'm going to use it to create first a pink band all around the edges. So I'm going to draw my pink, and then I'm going to come back and go a heavier pink line to create a pink edge, and I'm just going to move my way around and do all 4 edges the same way. So once you have all 4 edges decorated with the pink design, now I'm going to set it back on top. And the beauty of it being a clear plastic is that basically it's clear. So you can print out whatever you want. Make sure you like the look of it before you actually start coloring it. And then I'm going to just use the same Sharpie, and I'm going to use it to create this pattern. So I'll just go right over the top of the black pattern. And once I do one row, I'm going to move my up and do the next row. Now once you have the pattern, if I move this, you'll be able to see on white, you'll see that there's the pattern. And you really do want to let it set up and dry, but I don't have time to do that. So if I make a little fingerprint, you'll excuse it. You would let it set. It only takes like less than a minute, but we're not going to sit here for a minute. You want to mark the middle because you're going to punch a hole so that you have someplace to place the brad through. So I just took a Post-it note, and I'm going to use this. If I set this, the stickiness is going to make it so it will hold it in place. So I can place my plastic right over the top. I've folded the Post-it note in half and marked with a pencil the halfway point. So now I'll just use the same, actually if I use the same pink pen, it might just mix in with my design. I think I'm going to use the red. And I'm just going to mark where I want the hole for that brad to be. So once I've marked it, now you can see I've got that tiny little mark in red there. I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the smallest, the 16th inch punch to go back and punch through this piece of plastic. At this point, I'm going to attach it, but before I attach it, I want to write my love you message, or, you know, the beauty of making it yourself is your message can say whatever you want it to say. But I do want to make sure that I put it in a place that sits kind of underneath the middle of this spot. So what I did is I laid it down until I had a fairly even border around the sides and the top. And I just lightly marked with pencil where this is going to sit. I'll go back later and I'll erase that pencil line, but I'm going to also mark the center where the hole goes. The outside edges are just so I can see where I'm going to want to write love you, and this is going to tell me where I want to punch that hole. So if I move this out of the way, and then I'll take a red pen. In case it wants to bleed through a little, would be smarter to use a pen that wasn't a Sharpie, but that's what happens to be what I have here. So I'm just going to write love you inside my pencil lines. Now I can go back and erase the pencil because I no longer need, the only pencil line I'm going to leave is the one that has the place where I'm going to punch the hole. So I'm not going to take any chances on erasing where that is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just punch the hole where I marked with the pencil. If your hole punch doesn't reach in and punch out that hole and you have an anywhere punch, then you would just go back and use the anywhere punch to punch out your hole. Then it's time to go ahead and attach the layers. So I'm going to place this where I align the holes, and I'll show you here. I've just used a heart-shaped brad. It has a really long stem. I'm going to go ahead and place it through the holes, and then I'm going to use my scissors to make that a little bit shorter because I don't want to have to cover up really long prongs from the other side. And I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to separate them because it's going to be easier to cut them off when they're separate. And then pick a pair of scissors that are not your good special ones and use it. I'm going to use it to just trim both of these and make them shorter. And then I'll pull the prongs around, flatten it out. And I decided I wanted a little more detail, so I went back with a white pen and I added just a few polka dots to that little red heart-shaped brad. So, and at this point, if you look at mine, you can see that I hand wrote Happy Valentine's Day, but it's really tucked a little tighter than I like to the plastic. So, you know how I'm always telling you, don't write right on the card. If you do it on a separate piece of paper, you can make sure you like it first. I didn't follow my own advice. So here I've gone ahead and I've written Happy Valentine's Day on red, and I'm going to go ahead, and I'll place adhesive on the back. And then I'm going to just position this where I think it looks good. Usually I use my tweezers so my fingers aren't in your way. And when I think everything is fairly straight, although oddly enough, for some reason upside down, I can't tell when something's straight. I have to turn it right side up to make sure that it's pretty straight. I need to tweak it a little, but there you go. So put your Valentine's message, and then on the inside, just pick a shape that is big enough to cover the pattern that you want, in this case, to cover those brads. So I think what I'm going to do is take and layer this heart on top of this one, And then I'll go ahead and peel both of them off and cover right over the brads and just build that right into the design. And now you're ready to write your heartfelt message. So you have a really cool but very personal Valentine. You know, whether you're celebrating your love for a parent or a child, a husband, a boyfriend, or really any family member, a handmade Valentine is going to make a great gift.